Hey, hello again, everybody. It's Paranormal Musings podcast with T Paranormal and Cordell. We have a special guest today, Larry Lawson. Um, gonna read a bio real quick, kind of tell you what he's all about, and then Larry's gonna tell you what he's really about and what him and his team does here in the Treasure Coast of Florida, where myself and Cordell are. So we're very excited to have Larry on. So without further ado, Larry Lawson's a highly regarded criminal justice professional with over 40 years of experience in law enforcement, investigation, security services, professional training, and post secondary education. He is also a proven leader, speaker, and educator in the field of paranormal investigation and research. His first encounter with the paranormal occurred in 1980 as a young correctional officer assigned to the Dade Jail in Miami, Florida. It was here that Larry first encountered the paranormal when he witnessed a full bodied apparition walking down a cell block and disappearing. In the preceding years, he became a recognized authority on the investigation of cult and occult related crime investigation. Teaching and lecturing on the subject, he helped law enforcement professionals regionally and nationally understand the complexities of investigating crimes involving the occult. In 2011, Larry founded the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. The FBPI is dedicated to uncovering evidence that will lead to an understanding of what paranormal phenomena is and is not. In 2016, Larry created Indian River Hauntings LLC as the outreach for the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. Indian River Hauntings provides events, tours, and lectures to introduce its guests to the wonderful history of the area and to help explain and sometimes experience the world of paranormal phenomena and research. 2024 saw the release of Larry's first book, Haunted Indian River County, published by the History Press Arcadia Publishing. He is also the past host of Paranormal Stakeout Radio TV show on the X Zone Radio TV network and Encounters with the Other Side on WPSL Radio in Fort Pierce, Florida. So that's just a little bit about Larry. I'm sure we're going to learn some more. And with that, Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I hope I didn't bore you with all that, but I appreciate the intro. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really excited to hear from you and get an invite to the show. Um, as you said, I am the founder of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, and it's funny you mentioned my first experience was in 1980, and it was a lot of folks in the paranormal field have experiences when they were kids, and I didn't. It wasn't until I was young. I was 20. I was 20 and working in the Dade County Jail, getting my law enforcement career started, and yes, clearly saw a figure walk. Part of the cell block, but it was actually the catwalk that was on the outside. Uh, Saw a tall, thin figure walk, right down there, and sent the guys that were with me out to. I thought it was a lieutenant had snuck up to catch us sleeping or whatever. And I sent the guys that were with me looking, and there was just nobody there. And it was kind of funny because the catwalk circled all the cell blocks, and I saw him walk down the center cell block. And I hollered at the guys that were with me, and they shoot out the back of the control room. One went right, one went left, because the only way you could get up there was the elevator that was right in front of me, or the stairway that was connected to the booth in the back. Only two ways. So they went out the back, one went right, one left, came back. Lawson, there's nobody there. I said, I'm telling you, I just saw him. Nothing, there was nothing spooky, see-through, or wispy about it. It was a solid figure. So I didn't think twice about it. And a couple of older Cuban guys said, this place is haunted. That stuff happens all the time. So that was kind of my introduction to the world. I always had an interest in it, in the unusual. I watched the old Leonard Nimoy TV series. The name
Yep.
escapes me right now. I used to watch all that stuff, but nothing really ever happened till that moment. But it wasn't until 2010 that I really began to want to investigate, and it happened, Cordell, in St. Augustine. My son Ryan, who now is a respiratory therapist up in Gainesville, but he was just turning 11, and he had watched the old Ghost Hunters show, and it was the St. Augustine episode where they put the camera at the base of the spiral stairway, and they caught the figure looking over, and a fraction of a second later, it was another story up, and a fraction of a second. So he wanted to go, and took him up there. We went through Dark of the Moon tour. I'll give them a plug because that is probably in my opinion, the best tour in St. Augustine. They do it at the lighthouse, and I've done it like 4 or 5 times and never not had an experience. But on this particular one, we took the tour. Uh, Ryan had so much fun, he wanted to do it again, so we did. And the second tour had fewer people in it. The guide said, "Look, I got fewer folks. You've been through it once, so you know the deal. Tell you what, I'm going to take everybody to the lightkeeper's house first, and you two can just have the lighthouse to yourselves for about an hour." Groovy. And we were down for that. So we're inside the lighthouse, up on the fourth level, I think, and we're just sitting there, and we hear kids laughing. Now, for those not familiar with the lighthouse story, it was being reconstructed in about 1879, in that era. And the construction foreman had 3 daughters, and they had a friend, and they used to play on the trolley that went from the water all the way up to construction site. The one thing about Florida at that time is there were no railroads, there were no roads. Anything that came to the coast had to come by water. So anyway, these kids would used to play on the cart, and it would go down, and they'd hit the brakes like a roller coaster. Well, one day it didn't work, and the cart went into the water, and 3 of the kids drowned, 2 of the daughters and one of their friend. Since that time, the 2 daughters have been reputed to be haunting the lighthouse. So that's the story. So we're in there and we hear these kids laughing. No mistaking about it. Being a cop, first thing I'm looking for is camera, or I'm sorry, speakers and wires. So I'm looking for some way to see how they did this. No, there's absolutely no explanation why this occurred. And that's when I decided, I'm going to start looking into this because it's the greatest mystery of all mankind, isn't it? No,
Yeah.
nobody's figured it out yet. So that's what created the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. And then a few years later, in 2016, after folks, hey, can you talk to our Rotary Club? Can you take a tour? I created Indian River Hauntings as kind of our outreach in order to share with people the history of the area and well as the phenomenon itself. So that's how it all started.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Cordell, you got anything? I got a couple questions, but I'll let you go first if you'd like.
So I know you've been doing this since the mid '80s. Out of all your investigations, which one has made an impact that just scared you to the bone?
Wow, scared. I don't know if scared's the right word. Maybe unnerved me a little bit. There's a couple. Um, there was an incident that occurred. It was in the old school in Fellsmere. Now, Fellsmere is a little town in the northwest corner of Indian River County. Huge history there for such a small town. And when I retired the first time, I was actually the detective out in Fellsmere for their police department as my first retirement job. Great town. I love Fellsmere. It's one of the most. I just love that town. And we were in there, and there was an individual who used to be on one of the shows, had contacted me, brought somebody, said, "Hey, can you get me in there?" I knew him from a group out of West Palm Beach, War Party War Party Paranormal, actually.
Everybody knows War Party.
Huh?
Everybody knows War Party.
Yeah. And so Rob got a hold of me, and we went into the school because he had a writer with him, and we were upstairs, and we've had I've written all about it in my book, Haunted Indian River County. But so many things happen in that school, and we were up there. It was just my son Evan, who's a medium, I might add, or he sees and feels things others can't. I'll just put it that way.
A
And
parasensitive.
yeah, he doesn't like me saying that. That's why I'm kind of watering it down.
Yep.
But anyway, we were up there and we had been getting crazy stuff on the DR60 all night. Nasty, mean stuff that we'd never gotten before. And they were mostly directed at the female writer that was with us. And we were up in the auditorium, And I'm just standing there. And this is the first time this has ever happened to me. I'm as sensitive as a rock, guys. I'll tell you right now. I just am. But we're upstairs and we're talking. We're getting really nasty stuff over the recorder. And suddenly my head starts to spin. I mean, out of nowhere, and I'm going to the ground, and my son actually catches me. And once I came to, Rob asked, "Did you do this to Larry?" And we played the recorder back, clear as a bell, the same male voice we've been getting. Yeah, and you're next, bitch.
Oh shit.
Just like that. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Right? Yeah, that was kind of intriguing. Never I've had a couple of occasions where I was getting a little lightheaded or something, but nothing like that. This was I was going out. Uh,
Wow.
can't explain it. Can't explain it. So
Yep.
that was probably the one that unnerved me the most. I've got a couple that are really profound that we're working on. There's a spot in Sebastian, Florida. If you want me to keep going, you want to hear the
Oh yeah.
story? Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now this story, gentlemen, is what keeps my blood flowing. This is why I do what I do. We got a call from it was actually my daughter. My daughter was a Sebastian police officer. She's now a deputy up in um, just south of Jacksonville, deputy sheriff up there, Clay County. Clay County is where she's at. And she answered a call one night in Sebastian when she was there. They had a burglar alarm went off, and they got there and they found something in the middle of the floor that shouldn't have been there. It was a little store inside of a house built in the late 20s. And while they were there, some other things happened, and Ashley happened to say to the owners of the store, "Hey, you need to call my dad." So they did, and we connected, and we got in there. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because I really can't right now. But we got in there, we began investigating, and we started. It was pretty slow at first. Then suddenly we started getting some information. Now, what we have a lot of protocols that we use. We film everything, for example. Everything is video recorded. And we have a medium that we do use. He's in England, and this was a tough one for me as a cop. Mediums are tough for me to really grasp as a cop, but I've really opened my mind to that. And this particular gentleman, Chris Huff, who I consider to be just brilliant, can come with us via the internet, and it's been very successful. And in this particular case, we've got him, and nobody can hear him because I got earphones on. He starts telling me there's a little girl there. Her name is, I'll just, he gives me a name and a variation of it. And next thing I know, our spirit box is giving us information, giving the same name. The dowsing rods we're using, we're answering. Everything was coming through. Everything was the same. We eventually get to the point where the little girl that's there, she's about 5, makes a comment about Uncle Oscar. Uncle Oscar didn't mean to. He didn't mean to hurt me, type of thing. And one of my specialties as a detective is crimes against children. So I immediately went into cop mode on this, and I start asking questions, and I start trying to find out more about it as if I was talking to a child victim. And I said, "So do you like TV? No. Do you like radio? Yes. Do you like this radio show? No. Do you like that radio show? No. Do you like Amos and Andy? Yes." So now I've got a period of time, and that's kind of what we do with kids. We kind of try to narrow down the time. And 30s, 40s is the area I was thinking. So we got all this really, really specific information. Have my daughter the next day check the records for the death of a child unsolved, whatever, tragic, nothing, nothing. But she does go and talks to the superintendent at the cemetery in town, who calls me and says, "Talk to your daughter." And about a week ago, had some family come in. They were visiting another um, grave site, and we just got talking about kids that were buried there. These people said, "Oh yeah, we've got a distant relative of ours that's buried here. She was a young lady. Her name was Belinda, which is the name we got. She was 5 years old, and she died tragically. We don't know how, but she died tragically in 1939.
Wow.
Crazy.
And then he takes me to her grave.
Wow.
How does
That
that happen? How does that
same.
happen, gentlemen? How does
Yeah. Right.
so?
Wow.
And here's the best part about it is we did find that there was an Oscar that died in 2017 at age 100 that lived less than a mile from the house that we were at.
Wow.
And there's a whole lot more to this story, but we're still working it. I'm still working on it right now. So, but that's profound in my books.
That is
Yeah.
very
Wow. That's
So,
awesome.
so those are probably two of the ones that I think about the most.
those are great.
I had for now I had two questions for you.
Oh, you only
Only one? Well, I was going to do it one at a
just kidding.
time. One at a time. I'll do a question and let Cordell go again, and I'll give you the other one. But could you tell us more about the team, Any River Hauntings? You don't have to
Right.
tell us everything or what you can't tell us, but you know, how many members? What you guys do in the area?
Wow. Look, I'm going to brag. I got the greatest group of guys and gals to ever investigate. Sorry, that's how I feel. Just truly dedicated folks that we all have the same goal in mind. We have different thoughts and
Mhm.
philosophies as far as why things occur, but we all have the same goal in mind. I've got about 10 folks on the team now, and we keep it that way. We did have openings about a year and a half ago, and we sent out as if anybody's interested, and they sent in uh, basically a bio, and my team got together to look them over. We picked a couple of folks that just melded real well because one of the key things is having a group that can function together, that can gel together, and that's that has made my team. And it ain't me, it's not me, guys. It's these great people that are with me on the team that just make it great. I've got about 10 folks now, 3 couples of the 10 right now, 3 of them are couples. Uh, 4 couples now, actually. So if you count 2 that are taking a little hiatus, so that would make 12. Um, they come from all walks of life. I've got a retired firefighter, another retired cop. I've got a military guy. I've got all kinds of folks, different levels of education, different skill sets, and that's really important. Having folks of different skill sets on
Yeah.
there, and not everybody can make it to every investigation, but we have a protocol that we set up that we do things essentially the same time. Obviously, little things pop up here and there that kind of throw you off your game on occasion, but we have
Yep.
a specific protocol that we do and that we've found to be very, very successful. Um, and that's a little bit about my guys. Like I said, I'm bragging, I admit it, but I think they're the best out there, and it's because of them, not me.
And you know what? That's how you should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
They're,
sounds
they're,
like they're good. You're still enjoying it, so you got to have a good team. And yeah, I think it's good you got a number of people too, because like you said, not everybody can make every investigation. Life
Yeah.
happens.
It does.
Life happens. We're adults, and the sad thing about adulting is we got to deal with adult crap. So
yeah, like with jobs and stuff. Hey, but I'm retired now, so I
yeah,
don't have that
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So
Somebody's got kids. Anything could happen. So
yeah,
When
exactly.
incident falls
yeah,
through, it's always something.
yep.
Yeah. So um, next question.
Cordell, you got anything else?
Um, yeah. Actually, Terry, ask your other question first because I really want to know.
All right. So I was going to ask a little bit about because you have a lot of law enforcement.
Mhm.
Could you tell us some more about? I guess I got two questions, but we'll go with this one. Can you tell us a little more that you haven't told us about, like how you've used it in law enforcement or helped law enforcement?
You kind of lost me a little bit on that one. How I use my
So,
background in investigations, is that what you mean?
well, paranormal, like the paranormal side of it. Have you um,
Have I
work
experienced much on the
regular.
job?
Yes.
I get that. I get quite asked that a lot, and the answer is no. Now I've got a lot of guys that I work with, and you got to understand when I first came on the job, you talked about this stuff out loud, or
Yeah.
you got sent to psych eval. It's not like that now. I mean, now cops talk about it regularly, and it's in fact. I don't know if you're familiar with, but Honolulu, Hawaii PD did an entire series. Have you seen it?
Yes. Yep.
On the paranormal experiences of their cops. That shows you how things have evolved for us. I mean, we talk about it now, it's generally pretty well accepted. And I've got some buddies of mine that have had some interesting thing happens. I'll plug this guy, Ike Enzi. He's with IDK Paranormal in New Mexico. I think I mentioned him to you the other day, Terry. That he's had some really profound experiences, both with uh, ghost apparitions as well as UFOs out there in the Badlands of New Mexico.
Wow.
Me personally, no. I mean, I've had things that have happened to me, that kind of, wait, something made me wait before I went into this building or before I stopped a car, but nothing I can put my fingers on. Except for that first time in the Dade County Jail. Um, and a lot of it, I think, I spent a lot of time as a detective, and then I ran I was the director of the police academy in this region of Florida for quite a while. And maybe it's because I wasn't out at night like I was earlier in my career. But no, I haven't had a ton of experiences while I was on the job, but I know a lot of guys and gals that have. So,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
it's
videos of they're policemen being interviewed for stuff like certain places, and they've had some stories to tell about when they show up. Sometimes they weren't believers, and by the time that was done that night,
well,
they believed.
For the
well,
video.
and I think it's because firefighters, paramedics, cops, ER personnel, we are in places of tragedy and high energy
Mhm.
at all
Yeah,
hours of the day and night. And I think
yeah.
that's why it can happen. Now, I will tell you this one story. I got a call from a local police department. I won't say which one. And it was a sergeant that I knew that said, Larry, you got to come out. We got a problem. And they answered a call because this family had holes all the holes in their walls all over the house, and they couldn't understand it. And it was and they called the cops. The cops went out there, and the sergeant said his officer had a Bible. No, I'm sorry, not a Bible. It's a Bible moved, but this was a TV remote thrown at her. And Larry, we didn't see who did it, so you got to come out. Well, we got out there, and this is one of the lighter sides of paranormal investigation. We go to do a residence. We like to talk to people. We have an entire protocol where we ask about mental health issues, psychiatric issues, medical, all kinds of stuff, drug
Yeah.
dependencies. And so we're talking and we're getting some information. I won't go into a lot of detail, but some things started happening, and my lead investigator, Mike Maxwell, we call him Spanky, he's a retired firefighter. He he says, Larry, I'll let me go with him in the other room, and they took the teenage son in the other room, and stuff's going on, and we hear banging, and finally Spanky just says, Larry, can I talk to you for a second? Sure. So he takes me outside. He said, it's the son. When nobody was looking, he was taking his foot and running it through the wall. And why he was doing he had a whole bunch of other issues, and I won't go into that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they were so good. They managed to kind of get the police department thinking there's something actually going on there, and it wasn't.
Yeah, that's insane too.
Which is part of investigating, figuring out if
If
it's
it's
actually,
paranormal, if it's
yeah,
Debunking is where it's at. If
yep,
we truly have an event, we cannot figure out a logical reason for it, and we did that night. That's for sure.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
debunking is one of my favorite things to do.
I sometimes you get excited and you're like, oh man, I'll come home, adrenaline's down or whatever, and I just start thinking about stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I should probably take another look at that.
Yeah,
Sometimes you find, oh, this could have happened, this could have happened. start
Sometimes you
reaching
answer
out
your
to
own
different team members. But yeah, I think debunking's good as long as you do it. I guess I'll say peacefully. There are some that just do it to be angry, but
Well, yeah.
the most is pretty good.
It's okay to be skeptical, but a skeptic
Yes.
oftentimes doesn't look at the other side of it. And that's one of the biggest problems we have in the field, guys. We've got folks on this side that if Abraham Lincoln stood right in front of them and says, "Yo, Larry, this is what's going on the other side," and I would say, the light hit the window wrong, and that's why I saw Abraham Lincoln. I mean, something. And then you get other folks that every little bump is the
Every
spirit
little
trying to
bump.
contact them. The
Yeah.
truth is, guys, in the middle. And what I like to tell folks is this phenomenon has been occurring since man's been on this earth. Every socioeconomic level, every culture, every race, every educational level, everybody in all those areas have experienced something. Everybody can't be nuts. Everybody can't be going
Absolutely.
through mass
Yep.
hysteria. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's got to be something. Let's get together. Let's figure out a way to find out what the answer is.
Yes.
That's kind of our philosophy anyway.
Yeah, I think the best debunkers, like true debunkers, are investigators. I believe
Oh,
so
yeah.
because you're going out there to look for stuff, but you're also holding yourself accountable.
Holding your
Well,
I think they're the best.
and that's where being a cop has helped me. My job is to collect the evidence to prove who committed the crime and present it to a jury of my peers to get them to decide beyond a reasonable doubt innocence or guilt, right? It's no different in this. We bring in the evidence, we look at it skeptically, and we've got to compile it in order to prove to a jury of our peers it exists. And that's where we've got to get.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we will.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But
And we're not going to get there until we figure out how not to be, this is my evidence, this is my place, I can't let anybody hear it, or
yeah,
be the type of person, no matter what kind of evidence somebody presents to them, they find fault in it.
Yeah.
Open mind, work together. And
Yep.
and Cordell, you and I spoke about this the other day. We truly, I've been harping on this for years. We need to as a field come together, create a certain set of standards that we all follow. It doesn't mean we're going to interview things the same way. It doesn't mean we're going to do things the same way, but little things such as every time you do an EVP session, you have to do a preamble, date, time, location, who's in the room, right? Set up those standards. What happens if somebody's stomach growls in there? How do you address that in there? Those standards can be created.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to discuss is, if a homicide occurred in Vero Beach and another one occurred in Tacoma, Washington, there's going to be certain laws and procedures that are different between states,
Yeah.
but essentially, we're going to investigate that homicide the same way.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're going to have evidence we can share. And serial killers is a great example. We get crimes down here, we put it in NCIC or a couple of the other systems out there, and folks in another state can see what we've got and see if their evidence matches. See
Yeah.
if we've got to get to that point where we've got standards and structure that we can share, and therefore evidence found in another state is relevant because it was found the same way. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, definitely. Big time.
And but
Yep.
people oftentimes take that as, well, you're telling us that we have to investigate a certain way. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, if you have a standard and everybody's following that standard, then the evidence found, no matter where it is relevant
Yeah.
to other cases. So anyway,
That's what I
so
like
much for
to-
my soapbox.
Yeah. That's what I like to
No,
do
I
with
hear.
these too. Like we hear a sound, we call them as we hear them,
Mhm.
Yep.
and a date time. That's something I'm gonna have to start doing. And who's in the room with us? But you make a very valid point with all of that.
Yeah, and there's different variations of it, but when we come up with a basic standard, it can do nothing but help us. It can do
Yeah.
nothing but help, push the field forward, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
So,
I think we need to get everybody running the teams get on board with it, and certain celebrities who like to undercut other people, get them on
Well,
board, or
but
it's we get
yeah,
there. I mean, I think that's the only way it would help get there, but it's hard to do that. But
it is. It is.
Awful.
But if we keep striving, maybe someday we can do this. I actually tried this and got absolutely no responses to it a few years ago. Actually created a forum for people to come in, share the evidence, and from that was going to take folks from different teams and create, like a board that can come
yeah,
up with with some procedures that everybody was comfortable with. And of course, just folks weren't interested.
yeah,
Law enforcement used to be like that too. Oh, don't tell the FBI anything; they'll take our case. Well, the only thing that
yeah.
happened out of that was we didn't solve crime.
Yep.
Fortunately, in the last 25, 30 years, we as the in the police field have gone past that, and now we share everything for the most part.
It only makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. So, uh,
All right, Cordell,
so
you got another question, or
Yeah. So you said you have 10 people on your team, right?
10, two are on a hiatus, so 12, but 10 active right now.
So when you guys do an investigation together, do you break off into groups?
Excellent question. Depends on the venue and how many people are there that night. For example, we did one the other night where I didn't have enough. I had some guests, such as the venue owners and stuff like that, and I only had a handful of my own folks there. So Spanky, my lead investigator, and I talked, and he decided he's just going to go with one group. But we've got one coming up a week from Saturday where we will split into probably three groups, three small groups. So a lot depends on the venue and what we're up against. If we're in a place that, for example, if you split it up, but you're going to be able to hear the other team because just the way the building is set up,
Yeah.
we'll just maybe only do one. Uh, so, but we have if we do split up, we have a team lead. We have somebody that's taking written notes, and a lot of folks don't do that anymore, but we take written notes to go along with the video. We have one of our guys, our video, Tom Rendazzo. He does all of our video, and he goes from group to group and videos what's going on. We then have the command center, which normally is where I'm at with my tech person, and we're monitoring the surveillance cameras that we've set up. And then we catch each team. Uh, Depending on the size, and we do take guests. We do have guests, and depending on the size, depends how many groups we have.
Uh, I like it. I like it. I really do.
Well, we found it to be successful. We really have, and it works for us.
And it
So
keeps and having them split off with each other kind of kills any chance of noise pollution in other groups' videos.
yeah, yeah, and we're not allowed. The groups are not allowed to discuss. And what we do is we rotate. We call it rotation.
yep.
You're in room A, B, and then you switch. They cannot talk to each other as they switch.
I love that.
So,
Yeah.
then one other thing that we're doing now, and this is an idea it's fairly recent. I don't know really. I was talking to actually Chris Huff in England. We were talking about it, but my variation of it is before each investigation starts, as an entire team, we sit in the venue for about 10 minutes. Nobody says anything. Dead quiet. We just kind
Listen,
of get in tune with listen and get in tune with it. Now everybody has a piece of paper. And if they get thoughts, they get feelings, they get visions, whatever, they write it down. But they don't share it with anybody until the end of the investigation and we do the come together. And you'd be shocked how many times people think about things, hear things, something comes to them that actually is pertinent to the investigation. Now, why that's happening, that's still to be discovered. But it's almost as if folks are almost becoming in tune with the venue, and it's almost speaking to them. I hate to use that word; it sounds crazy, but it's really shocking how often we've gotten stuff that has connected with the investigation as a whole.
And I think that like gives more power to the investigation as well. Like, so we're writing everything down, we're not talking to each other about it, and then when we come back together, we're getting the same stuff. Like
Yeah,
that
exactly.
to me, that's like, because you know how we talk about like, hey, I had a personal experience. We can't put out there that it was paranormal because it was this one person's personal experience.
Uh-huh.
But we know we were there. We know it was. But something like that, I like that. That's pretty cool because
Well, I could tell you this one. It was last week in an investigation we were doing. It was actually in St. Cloud. I'll give them a plug. It was the Women's Club in St. Cloud Library Museum up in St. Cloud. And we got the name Bill. And then on the portal, we got 62, 65. And suddenly one of my team members, Spanky, actually said, Bill. And he showed me the paper and he had Bill written down. And it turns out the lady who was in charge of the CB, who was in charge of the women's club, said, wait a minute, we just had somebody come in. And she showed me a cup that had him on it. He was a star football player back in 1962. And in 1965, he started playing football for Florida State. Bill, 62, 65.
That's
wow,
incredible.
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's just an example of how we're thinking that works. Um, Having the medium, Chris, he's not with us all the time, um, but having him on there is important. But it's more important that nobody hears what he says until afterwards. So that's why always wear earphones so that he cannot be heard, because we don't want to give anybody. And they wouldn't even do it on purpose. It'd be subconscious, but it might make a suggestion to somebody, and that's been super, super helpful also when he's able to
Yeah,
join us. So
nice. Well, I got one more question for you, then Cordell can take over if he's got any more. But could you tell us some more about the haunted tours? Like,
sure,
how
sure,
can
yeah,
people
that's a
find that, and what that tour is all about?
okay. I do a couple of them, and this is the result. Once again, I'm going to go back a little bit here. I retired from the state, went to work, as I said, out in Fellsmere. Folks out in Fellsmere started saying, oh, you got to talk to this person. You got to come here. So I'd bring my team out there, and we began to investigate the Marsh Landing restaurant, the old school, a couple other venues there. And Fellsmere's nuts, guys. I'm telling you. I think the most haunted spot in the entire area. Such a rich cultural area. I could go on and on about it. Um, and after we got investigating and people started hearing what we had out there, some of it you can even see on our website. It was typical of, hey, can you speak to our Rotary Club? Hey, can you give us a tour? And that's how uh, Indian River Hauntings came into being in 2016. And the tours are designed to not only share the history. See, I'm a big history guy. And let's face it, guys, if history goes hand in hand with this, because if you're talking to somebody on the other side, they're not here now, they're somewhere in the past. So it becomes hand in hand. So the tours are walking tours. I do them currently in Sebastian, Vero Beach. We're not doing walking tours in Fellsmere right now, but we do events out there. Um, and in the walking tours, we start with history. We talk about the legends of the area, but I also will not do a tour unless my team has done investigations in the area. So it's a combination of history, legends, and what my team has uncovered. And they last about 2 hours. They're walking tours. We start the one in Vero at the Driftwood Inn on the beach. And you can find out, and this in Sebastian, we start at the Chamber of Commerce on Main Street in Sebastian. And you can find them on my website, which is IndianRiverHauntings.com. And you can find it. In fact, my next 3-month schedule went up. Now, I don't do them every week so sometimes people say, well, I'm down on vacation. You're not scheduled. I will do private tours. But I do about 3 scheduled ones a month, plus folks, I do private tours. Now we do also some events. Every Halloween, we do a big bash out in Fellsmere, which includes a dinner, a presentation on the paranormal that we do, and about a 3-hour investigation of the Marsh Landing restaurant and
Nice.
the school. Now, I've seen 3 full-bodied apparitions in my life. One was in the Dade County Jail, as we've talked about. The other 2 were in the Marsh Landing restaurant.
Wow.
So that place rarely disappoints. In the old school is, well, it's crazy. And if you're interested, I've also written a book, Haunted Indian River County. I mentioned it before. You can
Yep.
get it on Amazon. You can get it locally here. They've got it at Books A Million. They've got it at Corey's Pharmacy, the Heritage Center, Mel Fisher's Museum. There's copies all over the place. But that goes into a lot of detail about stuff also that I've done on tours. In fact, in there I'll say, on this tour, this thing happened. Well, the tour was my tour. I just didn't want to say that. But we've had some really, really cool things happen on the tours, or folks that have shared with us. In fact, if I may, I'll share you one cool story. It was at the Driftwood. May I?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we love
absolutely.
to hear it. We love
The
stories.
Dri- are you familiar with the Driftwood Inn, the Driftwood Resort Bureau?
I've
Um,
heard of it. I've
It,
driven through Fellsmere, but
I,
well,
haven't hung out there.
this is Vero Beach on the beach.
I've
Okay,
It's
I've
true.
heard of it. Yes, I've probably passed
yeah,
by it.
Yeah, I've
uh,
heard of
bri-
it.
built by a guy named Waldo Sexton, who's the one who put Vero Beach on the map, essentially. Well, at any rate, um, there was family from Canada called me. It was they called me on a Tuesday. They said they're leaving Friday. Can I do a private tour for them on Thursday? I said sure. So I get there Thursday night, check in with the front desk, let them know I'm there, and Joe up front says, "Hey, Larry, we had a problem last night. I think it's the group you're taking out." I said, "Well, what happened?" "Don't know for sure, but it had to do with water." And these folks are staying in the original building that Waldo built for as a beach house for his family back in the 30s. I said, "Okay, I'll ask him." So they came up, the hellos, "How are you? I'm so and so." And I said, "So did you guys have a problem last night?" They said, "Yeah, we did." "What happened?" They start to tell me that they went to dinner, came back about an hour and a half later, and they heard water running. They walk into the bathroom, and both spigots in the tub are full on. Now this old building, all the tubs in it are the old claw bathtubs, the old style claw bathtubs,
Yeah,
separate hot and cold spigot. And we've investigated old buildings where the washers are bad and they're dripping or maybe on a little bit, but not full on. These things were full on to the chocks. Plug was in the bottom of the tub. Water is about to come over the sides. And then the husband leans towards me and says, "Yeah, Larry." And when I looked in the tub, the hotel's hair dryer was in the bottom of the tub. And when we left for dinner, it was 20 feet over there on that counter.
Wow.
Was it plugged in? No, it wasn't plugged in. Uh, but uh, that's just one of the many many stories. One guy was working in Waldo Sexton's room that he liked to stay in because nobody was in there, and it's mostly timeshare. And he calls over the radio because he's supposed to do some floor work and calls the front desk and says, "Thought you told me nobody was in here." "No, nobody's in there." "Well, I'm looking at a guy, a rather rotund gentleman with no shirt on, in the rocking chair." They make eye contact. The big guy gets up, walks to the back. By this time, folks are coming over from the front office. They open up the door and found nothing.
Wow.
But Waldo Sexton was a rather rotund gentleman who didn't like to wear shirts in the summertime. It was Waldo sitting in his chair. And Chris, he was just a guy that did contract work for the resort. So
that's crazy.
that's the kind of stories we did. I got a ton more of them on the beach and in Sebastian. Sebastian's a cool town that nobody really knows a lot about. So I love talking about Sebastian. Fellsmere, the history there. Did you guys know that in Fellsmere was the first time ever in the history of the United States of America a woman ever voted south of the Mason-Dixon line?
I didn't know
Women's suffrage was born in Fellsmere, Florida. So there's part of the history that we like to talk about.
I had no idea.
New
That's
fact.
not,
Man.
the best part about it is with my book, especially, I've talked to people that have lived there their whole lives. They've read the book and they say, I didn't know that. That's success to me.
Hey,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
book now.
Which is what's great about this us, like paranormal investigation. We get to learn about some history, which is cool.
Amen. Yes,
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
very cool.
I'm more in it for the history than the investigation, but I'm lying.
Well, like I said, I'm a big history guy, so that kind of gets my juices going too.
It coincides with with investigating. You have to know the history of the place you're going.
Yeah, you have to, and that's one thing with history though. You got to be careful because if folks come in my opinion, if folks come in and tell you about all the hauntings there, then your team's already tainted as far as possibly hearing something. And then you've always got to wonder, did they get that because of what they heard? So that's one thing we try very hard to do is not talk about the history, who lived there, maybe who died there, any tragedies there, but we don't talk about the paranormal events there.
Yeah.
Until the very end anyway.
Yep.
So that's a little bit about my tours. And if anybody is interested, IndianRiverHauntings.com would love to have you. We're doing some county tours now. This is Indian River County's 100th anniversary, and I'm working with the Centennial Committee, and I'm doing tours in Sebastian. Strict history, but I can't help throwing a couple ghost stories in there. But those are free. We're doing them on separate one Sunday a month. So if you go to the Indian River County Centennial webpage, you see the schedule where I'm doing that also.
Awesome.
So
Cordell, you got anything else, Cordell?
Yes. So when it comes to residentials, what are your do's and don'ts of that?
Okay, for starters, I don't do a lot of residentials. And the reason being, and this is just a preference on my part, we will, if somebody's having trouble and they're freaking out, we will do it. But we don't do a lot of them because liability is a big part of it. And the liability is an entire subject matter we could probably talk for an hour on. But you're wanting to know do's and don'ts. The first thing you don't want to do is go in there blind. If you're going to do a residential, go in there and interview the folks first.
Yeah.
We had a couple that was really upset one night, and we went and interviewed them. Spanky and I did, and turns out they were very honest, but they were also on some heavy psychotropic medication prescribed to them. And the answer I gave was, go talk to your psychiatrist. If they feel that it's okay for us to come in, that's fine. So the moral of that story is, don't go in blind. Don't go in making promises you cannot keep.
Yeah.
Don't go in there and tell folks you can do something that you can't.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and it's my opinion only, there are very, very few people that can go to a house and cleanse it. But I talk to folks that are mediums, and they say, we can make them go, but they'll come back sometimes.
Yep.
I've seen cases where folks have gone in and investigated and told somebody, "Oh, I've taken care of the problem." 3 weeks later, they're having it again. Now, are they actually having the problem again, or are they just having their own issues? That's we don't know. But what happens when a team goes in and makes a promise and we've solved your problem, and then the person goes through it again, and they do something drastic because they just give up? If you get my drift.
Yeah.
That's no good.
No.
Making promise, it does happen, and that's that liability issue again. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't say you can do something that you can't. And let's face it, how many teams do you know where people have watched a couple shows, get themselves a K2 meter, and they're out now cleansing homes? It happens.
Yeah. That's the worst
It
part.
happens. But some things to do, be honest and upfront. This is what if we do a residential, the first thing I say is, I can't do anything. I can maybe identify there's an issue here, maybe identify who it is. but to move it on, we're going to have to give you somebody with that kind of expertise.
Yeah.
Okay. Be honest, be upfront. Always follow up when you can.
Yeah.
Follow up.
I like to
So,
one thing I like to do is when they show me stuff like pictures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I look at it and be like, well, I can't say for sure this is paranormal. The
Yeah.
reason being is I didn't take that picture. Nobody on my team took that picture. They
Yeah.
took it. There's no telling what I got in my hands. So I always like I don't want to. It's not like I want to brush them off,
You don't
but
want to like give
like
off
you said, you got to be careful because you just saying, "Oh yeah, I see that,"
oh
puts
yeah,
in their
there.
head there's something here, and then
Right.
you come back and tell them, "Well, we didn't find
Eh,
anything," and now they're upset, and you know,
Well, we all get folks. I'm sure you guys get it too. Folks will send you things, and this is what I saw. What do you think?
yeah,
And you've got to be judicious in how you answer it. You don't
yeah,
want to shoot people down, yet at the same
yeah,
time, you don't want to tell them something that you can't confirm either. So it's
yeah,
difficult. You got to be a diplomat in this
yeah.
field at
Yeah.
times. So
Don't automatically uh looking for the words, but it's probably the wrong words I'm going to use, but justify what they're saying. Like, you know what I mean?
no,
Like, don't
yeah,
automatically do that,
verify.
and don't automatically brush them off. It just you got to be in the middle, and
Well,
you know,
let's face it, guys. We've got to be able to talk to people. You've got to
yeah,
have the ability to communicate and make them understand. Sometimes it's not
yeah,
what you say; it's how you say it.
Yeah.
In the cop world, you know you've written a good traffic ticket when the person thanks you after this traffic stop is over and they got the ticket. Why? Because it's how you treated them, it's how you talk to them.
yep,
And so
yep,
that's got to be part of it also.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mine.
Yeah, walk that line, not
yeah,
walk that
well,
line, but
Johnny Cash, calm
oh,
down.
yeah, got to be
well,
careful. Got to be careful.
well, and the thing that scares me the most are folks that go out there and say, going back to making promises they can't keep and the harm that does. And and sometimes even when you do your best, you're still you still get yourself
Yeah,
in a situation. So also, well, anyway, that's so I don't do a lot of residentials unless it's exigent circumstances.
Yeah.
yep,
So
yeah. That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
That's very fair.
so we like to do historical places. Um, our team does take a trip every year. We've been like the Chandley Hotel up in New York, the Hinsdale House, St. Augustine. That's the weirdest story. Cordell, you were just there and you had a great night. Well, I've gone every time I've gone to St. Augustine, I've had experiences, but they've always been on paid tours. Well, we just
Mhm.
broke down and we rented the entire St. Augustine Lighthouse property to ourselves. We had it was just us, and we got nothing. It's the only time that's ever happened. But
We
um, I've had most of my success in places we weren't expecting anything.
yeah. We only paid for the jail. We
Uh,
went to a couple of different spots around St. Augustine.
uh,
The city gates we
yep.
went to. We got some good stuff there. It was really weird though because we were there till like 4 a.m. Had the cops by us the whole time. That was strange. The old Spanish chimney and well. I had some very weird experiences over there. And a couple other places that our team leader took us to, and
See,
definitely worth it.
yeah, St. Augustine is unfortunately so commercial.
Yeah,
Sometimes its true paranormal nature gets overlooked because there's a lot there, but
yeah.
it's so
Yeah,
commercial, it doesn't always get seen, and
yeah.
that's kind of a shame. But I love the lighthouse. I'm just a huge fan of the lighthouse.
I'm hoping the next time we go, we hit the lighthouse because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it'll definitely be worth it. I mean, my wife, who is I won't say she's a skeptic. She just prefers not to believe it, if you get my drift.
oh,
Yeah.
I got
But
Yep.
we one time we were up there with some friends, and my boys were younger. We were in the lighthouse, and the door locked on its own, and you couldn't get out. And we had to get the staff to unlock it. And they showed it. It should not lock. And it was funny, just before the door came shut and locked, My wife is sitting across from it. The back of the house looks right at the lighthouse, and
Yeah.
she saw a blur of just a blur shoot left to right, and the door shut and locked. And my wife, she didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So
If you do go back to St. Augustine, I highly recommend the Ghost After Dark, the jail.
yeah,
I highly
yes.
recommend that. It is phenomenal. And the tour guide, his name's Fran. Wonderful dude. He knows
Oh,
everything about that building. And the
yeah.
history behind it is crazy.
I've been in the jail a bunch of times, but never doing the work, and that's one of the things on my list.
Yeah.
So
It's,
I will get up there and do that.
right on.
So but
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Larry.
no, I was just going to say it's you know, this is a field, and if I got to leave your listeners with one thought: if you're interested in the field, study it, understand what you're doing, understand your equipment, understand how your equipment works and why it works,
Yeah.
and study. There's two types of folks out there. There's paranormal researchers, and there's paranormal thrill seekers.
Yeah.
Paranormal thrill seeker. There's nothing wrong with being a thrill seeker. They go out on the weekends, they get that EVP, and that's great. They're excited, and they put it away and never do anything with it. They just had fun with it. But the researchers keep the stuff, keep the evidence, examine it, scrutinize it, and compare it with other evidence and research. So whether you're a researcher or a thrill seeker, determine what you are and continue on. But we need researchers. We need folks that are going to come out there and help us find the answers.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Try
think
to find the real answers. Try to find the real.
I think I'm more of a thrill seeker, but I do like the historic part of it, and I like comparing.
Yeah.
I like comparing what we find to the things other people get in their news.
Mhm.
Well, that's a researcher, Cordell.
Searching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
like
research.
the thrill because you can ask Terry.
We all like the thrill.
Yeah.
We all
Everybody
like
does.
the thrill.
Yeah. We just like to get the thrill the right way.
Right, get the thrill the right way. But no,
Yeah.
research it. My heart still gets going. No, I
Yeah.
still
Oh
enjoy the
yeah.
thrill.
It's still paranormal.
Don't misunderstand me. So
Yeah, I love it, love it.
You get thrills, you get to learn, you get to research.
And you get
and you
all
get
in
to meet
one.
some cool people. Get to meet some cool
Yeah.
people at the same time.
Yeah. All in one.
Yeah.
Cool people, dead or alive.
I see what you did there.
That was good. That was good. That was good. So I am working on one last thing is I'm currently working on haunted St. Lucie County right now.
Yes,
Got
I
some
did know
cool
that.
things.
Yeah.
Got some cool things going on there. So hopefully by this time next year that will be out also. So
Yeah, we'd love to. Well, we can have you on before then, so because I want to hear some more about the areas up there. But definitely
yeah.
when you get that out, we'd love to have you on. You can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely
want you to promote your book for real.
excited to get that. I mean, we live in myself, Cordell. We live in Port St. Lucie, so I at least cannot
Well,
wait for that one to come out.
I
So
live in Jensen Beach, so I'm more Martin County than St. Lucie,
yeah,
but it's the same thing.
and
And
right
good
next.
folks down there, the Mesmers. Are you familiar with the Mesmers?
I am
Pat and
not.
Trish Mesmer?
Why do
Great. They
I
do
know
a
that?
tour
Why do
and
I know that?
they do a
Oh,
tour in
Stewart.
Salerno. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Port Salerno.
Great,
Yep.
great folks. Great folks. So
I'm
that's
I met them. They're the ones that told me about you.
okay.
They do the Port Salerno tours down here in
Right.
Stewart or whatever. But yeah, I
Right.
met them. They go to all the festivals down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
very
They're
cool.
that's awesome couple.
Yeah, that they are. That they are.
Yeah,
But I appreciate you having me on tonight and getting a chance to chat with you guys. So
yeah.
Of
Appreciate
course,
having you on.
we really appreciate having you here, Larry.
Yeah,
well, let's do
can't wait
this
to have
again.
you on again. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah. So everyone, like we said, we'd like to thank Larry for coming on, and hopefully we can have him on again, as many times as he'd like to come on and chat about the Treasure Coast area. And we will see you next time. So with that, Cordell,
Stay spooky, my friends.
stay spooky. All right, goodbye, everybody. See you next time.
Have a great night.